Hello, I'm Esther, and I am the second affirmative. I'll be refuting Philip's arguments and adding on to Kiko's claims. According to Lawrence Wittner from the Huffington Post, the annual salary of a full-time American worker employed at $7.25 per hour is $15,080, which is less than the official federal government poverty level for a family of two. The poverty level for a family of four is $23,550, considerably beyond what a minimum wage worker earns. She also adds on by saying, according to a study released this October by the University of California and the University of Illinois, 52% of America's fast food workers receive assistance from public programs like food stamps, temporary assistance for needy families, and Medicaid, thanks to their poverty level wages. The study estimates that public assistance to McDonald's workers alone amounts to $1.2 billion a year, the equivalent of 1/5 of the corporation's annual profits. As an increasing number of workers take on low-wage jobs, poverty in the U.S. has increased. According to a study in 2005, 12.6% of Americans were living in poverty, compared to 15.7% this year, which is almost 50 million citizens and the highest rate of poverty since 1965. Raising the minimum wage to a living wage would hopefully help reverse this trend. Mike Congsel from the Washington Post said, Aaron Duke, University of Massachusetts Amherst economist, found that raising the minimum wage by 10% would reduce the number of people living in poverty by 2.4%. Using this as an estimate, raising the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour would definitely reduce the number of people living in poverty by 4.6 million immediately. Michael Heisek from the Economy Hub in January said, that means that the minimum wage increase would play a modest but important role in reducing poverty and raising family incomes at the bottom. Poverty and minimum wage definitely affects purchasing power, and the minimum wage is currently lower in purchasing power terms than it was every year from 1956 to 1983. In the article, minimum wage buying power was higher in 1956. That's Bradford Business. It says today's minimum wage workers have far less buying power than their counterparts did in 1968, when the minimum wage was at its highest value at $10.74 adjusted for inflation. A 2009 study from the Economic Policy Institute predicted that upping the minimum wage to $9.50 an hour would result in $60 billion in additional spending over 2 years. Furthermore, this additional consumer spending will lead to more job creation and an estimated 100,000 new full-time jobs. Also, there's another study, a 2011 study by the Chicago Federal Reserve Bank, finds that minimum wage increases raisin incomes and increases consumer spending, especially triggering car purchases. The authors of the study examines 23 years of household spending data and find that every dollar increase in minimum wage worker results in $2,800 in new consumer spending by his or her household the following year. Mike Congsel from the Washington Post said, as many economists have argued, the minimum wage substantially held up the lower tail of the U.S. earnings distribution through the late 1970s, but this effect stopped as a real value of the minimum wage fell in subsequent decades. This gives us an empirical handle on how the minimum wage will help deal with both insufficient low-end wages and inequality, and the results are striking. The results are a series of studies by the Institute for Research on Labor and Employment at UC Berkeley, which states that significantly advances the research on minimum wage employment effects. The study minimum wage effects across state borders compared all neighboring counties in the U.S. located on different sides of a state border with different minimum wage levels between 1990 and 2006, and found no adverse employment effects from higher minimum wages. There's another study, a 2006 study from the Fiscal Policy Institute found that states with minimum wages above the federal level faster small business and retail job growth. But Lawrence Wintner from the Huffington Post said, but sophisticated studies by economists have reported little or no effect on employment of raising the minimum wage. T. William Lester from the article "Raising the Minimum Wage would help would help and not hurt our economy" said, "A higher minimum wage not only increases workers' incomes, which is sorely needed to boost demand and get the economy going, but it also reduces turnover, cuts the cost that low-road employers impose on taxpayers, and pushes business toward a high-road and high human capital model."